Hello, my name is Randy Dobson. I'm an instructor here in the Houston, Texas area. And this video is just going to be a quick overview talking about dimensioning. Uh, as software has become more and more usable and as far as dimensioning, getting away from hand drawings, there are still certain rules that apply to dimensioning to make them look the best. For my class here in Houston, my Dftg 1305, we covered dimensioning in here. And first, let me say that learning how dimensions look, where they should go, is not something that happens overnight. It's something that just takes time using them, making mistakes, learning from the mistakes, and trying not to repeat them. And I've got a list that I know my class has. Here's the do's and don'ts of dimensioning, which I forget which book I got this out of, so I can give them credit for it. This is not my work. And there are certain rules. I mean, just like number 8, do not dimension hidden lines. And its dimensions should not be placed upon a view unless clearness is promoted, okay? There's a couple things with dimensioning is clearness, and what that means is easy to read, because when somebody's manufacturing or creating something from your drawing that has dimensions, the last thing you want them to do is get confused or hesitate, because then they're going to have to stop their work. They're going to have to contact you or your boss or someone to get clarification, and that takes time, and then the project starts to lose money because it's not as efficient. And, you know, a lot of these rules are not covered or are required, you know, all the time. It depends on who you work for and the person and the company and their standards. And I'm just kind of scrolling through these. And so you have to just kind of learn to look for them. Now on the assignment that I've given my class, what I've done is I've asked you to find 5 mistakes or 5 things, and then come down here and just recreate it, doing it correctly. And you know, for the average person, they're going to look at this and say, well, this looks fine. Okay, they may notice this dimension going through the 10, but other than that, they're looking at it and they say, well, I don't see what the problem is. Okay, just to kind of review some things, when you have a dimension, you don't want your dimension to touch the object, just like this line did, because now you're not sure if this line is actually part of the object. Same thing down here. So you want a little space, a little light, white space, whatever you want to call it, in between that your object and these are your extension lines. Remember, this is extension lines. These are dimension lines. These are extension lines. Okay. That's the way they're called out in AutoCAD, so it is a term that you need to use. Another thing to look at is you notice all the dimensions are horizontal except 30. If you're going to do 99% of them horizontal, you need to do them all horizontal. So that's one, you know, again, that's one thing that a mistake, or what do they call it, incorrectly dimensioned. We'll just say that. So you got that. You've got this line going through here. That's 2. These extension lines should be a space there. That's 3. Another one which doesn't seem as obvious are these 2 right here. One of the big rules of dimensioning is you do not want dimensions within your object unless it's just the only place you can put it. In this case, this 30 could have been down here outside the object. This 10 could have had a dimension and had that 10 put outside here. Okay, you want your object to be free and clear of numbers, again, to help it be more visible of what your object is and what your dimensions are. And then you take, you know, what you found, these 5 that are incorrect, you want to correct them and then dimension it down here. Okay, when you come to some like this, you may be looking and you're not, really sure. And again, I don't want my students to get hung up on this too much. Just give it your best guess. I mean, when you're looking at it, give me a comment. And, again, it's a learning process. Of course, the first one that sticks out are these two right here. Your longer dimensions are always on the outside. See, like this one is here, the longer one. That way, right here, you don't want dimension lines being crossed. That's a big no-no. Same thing with this center line. Okay, really, that center line, it doesn't need to go between the two views. So I would have taken this center line and cut it off right about here, and then maybe cut it off right about here, taking out all this center line right here. Okay, that's two. Let's see, what else do we have going on here? The dimensions like this, where your number gets away from the actual arrows and lines, these really should be more either bring the arrowheads in, and make it look like this, or like this here, the 0.75. In this case, this is fine because it's on the inside. You may have to squeeze those in there a little bit, but that would be one way of doing that. And let's see, what else would there be on here? Excuse me. And see, in some of these cases, well, this is only 4. So I did these two crossing here. That's 1. This crossing, the center line is 2. This should be on the outside 3. And then maybe this 0.5 could be on the inside here. Again, putting the arrows inside. And if you see something else that may, pique your interest, go ahead and put that. I'm open for suggestions. You may see something that I don't see, where these extension lines cross. There really should be a break there, and AutoCAD even provides that under the dimension controls, where you can actually put a break between the two extension lines, and then of course come down here and fix them. This one, they're saying 6 of them, so let's kind of take a look at it and see. And this is really a multi-view drawing. Let's look at this, and let's see. In this case, again, you kind of have the eyeballing of it. This long extension line. Really, this 20 could have just easily been put. Well, no, you can't do hidden lines. Almost made a mistake there. This 20 really should have been over here. This long extension line, you really don't want to see that. Okay. You've got the dimension line, extension line crossing. You really don't want that. You put that, the arrowheads in here. Same thing over here with this 10. Okay. And let's look up here and see if we see anything that kind of stands out. And in this case, I'm going to have to say, because I'm not seeing anything that's just really jumping out at me, is that some of the dimensions could have been, as you notice, this one's pretty crowded. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dimensions. 1, 2, 3, 2. So a couple of these dimensions could have been moved over to here, like this diameter of 20, and that could have been put right down here. Okay, and maybe this 45 could have been put down here from this edge to this center line. So sometimes the mistakes are not jumping out at you. Sometimes the mistake is just the arranging of it. Okay. And then that's pretty much it on the dimensions. If you go to the PDFs that I have for this class, and it talks about dimensioning, I know some of you may be looking at it and not really seeing, it's not helpful. I know that this is not things that may pique your interest. and Pearson. This is the book actually that I got that do's and don'ts out of. And like here, number 3, correctly place dimension lines, extension lines, angles, and notes. Dimension circles, arcs, and inclined surfaces. Okay, this is again to make your drawing clear so the person working on it can understand it. 3 aspects of good dimensioning: technique of dimensioning, placement of dimensions, and choice of dimensions. Choice could be like on that one where I took the diameter of 20 and took that symbol off and put it down at the bottom right to where it was actually a dimension, not a diameter call out. Technique of dimension, well, that'd be technique. Placement of dimensions, not crowding it all in one area. When you look at this one here, you see how they kind of balance it out. They put some important stuff up here that they had to, but notice how the shorter ones are up closer to the object. Okay, and then the longer ones, see the little space between the extension lines. We're not going to really talk about tolerances right now. Using dimensions and extension lines. See here, which I don't agree with this. There should be a gap there. Here, do not cross dimension lines. Okay, this is the case to where, take the longer one and put it at the bottom, and that solves that crossing. Okay, here's one where they're dimensioning on the inside of the object, which is a no-no. Notice how clear these look without the dimensions in the middle of them. These are things just to kind of give you some, pieces of information. Here you got dimensions zigzagged all over the place. Why not put them together? So in this case, they don't give you this dimension, but it would be easy to just take this overall and subtract these 3 from it, and it'll give you this one. But trying to see that on this one, again, is causing the person making it to have to hesitate. And again, just like this no gaps, I disagree with this. Avoid gaps. I do put gaps in mine, and I've never, I don't believe in that. I think it should be gapped. But I'll let your company that you work for set that standard. And let's see what else here. And look at these drawings. See, in this case, it wasn't that bad of a deal to put the radius in here. I still would have put it outside, but notice how they took this one way out. Again, to kind of keep this clear inside. Okay, and working with dimensions, and look at these objects. Notice how see how this 0.5 and this 0.5, they're lined up. These are lined up. They're not zigzagging all over the place. Okay, let me go back to one I saw here earlier. Like here, they're all in a line. Okay, you don't have to have 33 here, 22 here, 28 here. You may say, well, Mr. Dobson, the numbers are correct. You're absolutely right. It would be correct, but it's not as readable as if you had lined them up. And I'm going to go back here. Let's see where that was. Well, right here you got 102, 64, 50, 19. So if somebody wanted to know what this distance is, they would just take this and subtract all these 4 from it, and that'll tell you what that is. So I can sit there and go, okay, it's 102 plus 64, that's 166, plus 50 is 216, 225, 235. So 235 from 274 would be 39. So there, I know that distance is 39. And that's what the machinist or whoever's creating this is going to do. They can do this simple math in their head. But if you've got these, this 102 over here, and this 64 here, and this 50 here, they have to go looking for the numbers. Okay? But, to look at a dimension, let me kind of scroll down some more here. When I look at something that is dimensioned, like this, I can see things I would do better. Okay, and that only just comes from years and years and years of dimensioning. And you will get that way as you progress in your studies, and also once you get working somewhere, as you do it more and more, you will find that you can catch these mistakes and these oddities much easier. So that was just a quick review, just kind of talking about dimensions. I don't want my students stressing out over it. This is a learning process, so give it your best shot on this assignment. If you're not sure, if you can only come up with 4, not 6, well, think of something. It could be odd. Maybe it should be called this, or maybe this should have been done. Again, this is just a learning process, and there's no right or wrong answers, because everybody sees it a little different. And that concludes this video. Thank you.